was talking about the first challenge is to dream. The next challenge is to believe in your own dream, in yourself, in your ability to pursue and realize that dream. The challenge after that is to infect others with your dream, specifically people who are key to realizing this dream, without whom you will possibly not make it. You need to sell the possibility of your dream, especially the benefits, to all possible stakeholders and your family if possible. I wasn't able to convince my family. So I left in spite of all the warnings and all the cautions and all the recommendations that they had to offer me. Now, of course, they reconciled to the things I did, and they're quite happy with what I've done with my life. But I must tell you, it was very hard. We continued to face challenges after we established the first crossword. It was a success from the start. And of course, every new business faces challenges. And our answer to the many challenges we faced was innovation. As Schumpeter, the economist, defined entrepreneurs, he said entrepreneurs are those who apply innovation to meet customers' needs. And that's really what we did. When we wanted to scale crossword in a year and a half after we established the first one, we found that our investors did not want to fund any more expansion. They had just wanted to occupy that space productively that they had. And they had this notion that having a bookstore would help them sell all the stuff that was lying in their godowns. Interestingly, when we set up Crossword, we only picked very little from the IBH godowns. We went and opened accounts with all their rivals. And of course, they had not anticipated that. They had not called for that. But we said we need to stock what people wanted to buy, not what IBH stocked in their godowns. So we said, how do we expand our business? We believed we had a winning idea, and we believed that scaling that idea was very important, because what we had was not a patentable idea. Anybody could copy what we were doing. So get big fast was our motto. So we came up with a franchise model. We had no experience in franchising, but like I keep telling people, books are actually good for you. We actually read our books that we sell. So we had several books on franchising that we read. We went to the British Council and looked up a few more, and we came up with a model for franchising. And we had a gentleman from from Ahmedabad, who came up even before we went soliciting franchisees. Somebody came to us, and we set up our first store in Ahmedabad in 1995, which was about 2.5 years after we opened our first store. So that was a big success, and that immediately got us many more franchises. When we wanted to set up a cafe, there were no baristas or cafe coffee days. The only way we could have set up a cafe was to learn about how to set one up ourselves. So we had to innovate again and figure out how to run a cafe within the bookstore. It took me 2 years to convince the managing committee of the society that we were in Mahalakshmi Chambers, in Mahalakshmi. And I met them on numerous occasions. They were completely opposed to the idea of a cafe within the building. But finally, I persuaded them. And we figured out how to set up a cafe, how to procure the coffee machine, how to brew the coffee. We learned a lot of things. And if you ask, why the hell were we interested in setting up a cafe? We realized that one of the key drivers of buying was browsing. The more people spent browsing, the more they ended up buying. And one of the barriers to browsing was the discomfort of having to stand for a long period of time. So we introduced chairs, sofas. We made sure that all our stores had toilets. And of course, we set up cafes because we said the way to the customer's wallet is through their watch. So share a watch was the first motto. We said, if we capture share of watch, we'll capture share of wallet. And so it was. We had to innovate in order to create a compelling value proposition in terms of the store experience, the range, the product mix, features and facilities. We came up with innovations like Dial-A-Book, Children's Reading Hour, which became a huge hit. In fact, I'm delighted to state that 35% of books that we've sold at Crossword, in terms of volume, are children's books. And 25% by value, because typically children's books cost a lot less than fiction or business books. So we've actually sold a bunch of children's books, and most people in India thought children don't read. We proved otherwise. We innovated and came up with the notion of marketing the bookstore through the events. We felt that authors were a, brilliant ambassador for the bookstore who had not been leveraged or tapped at all. And they were only too happy to come in and promote their books. We served the Crossword Awards in order to promote the best of Indian writing. So we went on to do a lot of things that we felt was important to our business. But in terms of ROI, their importance was questionable initially. As I put up a quote earlier, whenever you're doing something new, you don't necessarily know what the benefits are going to be. And you don't necessarily need a license to do it. Wright, when he developed the first plane, did not go out and seek a pilot's license. There was nobody to give him a license. He had to go and give himself the license to do it. So we were the first to open on Sundays. We were the first to open 7 days a week. First to offer flexible gift vouchers. So simple thing like, can we have a gift voucher which we can redeem partially? Most stores said no. You had to go and spend the entire money at one shot. It didn't make any sense to us because the customers had already given us the money. The customers are saying, please keep the money. We want you to keep the money for a longer period of time. And here's the store saying, please spend it now. We were the first to offer an exchange and refund facility. In fact, our cash memos had this legend, goods once sold will be exchanged and taken back. We were the first to syndicate the Crossword bestsellers, book recommendations, money back guarantee, first to set up a loyalty program, etc. Later, we were the first to arrange for a sale of the business itself when we got Shopperstop and ICICI Ventures to buy Crossword in March 2000, creating wealth for the initial investors in their books. Howard Schultz, the chairman of Starbucks, has eloquently conveyed what one needs to do to succeed in any endeavor. He says, care more than others think wise, risk more than others think safe, dream more than others think practical, and expect more than others think possible. The Indian market, like all markets, offer both opportunities and challenges. The two always come as a pair. While the market potential is large or very large for an early mover, a key challenge is to estimate the current and future potential in a realistic sense. When we started Crossword, we deliberately decided not to focus on existing book buyers, but to focus on potential book buyers. And we built our business around them. As a market, India is not a country. It's a continent like Europe, with distinctive, diverse countries within it. So our second store, which we set up in Delhi, was, in hindsight, not the best of decisions we took. We should have opened many more stores in Mumbai before we went out of Bombay. And we corrected this later. Now there are some 17 stores in Bombay, and there are about 12 stores in Pune, 5 in Ahmedabad, etc. So penetration before expansion is a lesson I learned much later. I made lots of mistakes in my life, and of course I look at them as valuable lessons. The Indian consumer is evolving very rapidly. to continue to be relevant, your offering has to evolve continuously. Finding investors to fund us was hard. We had no understanding or access, as I mentioned, to angel investors, private equity investors, etc. Constantly having to do with less resources, whether money, people, etc., was a challenge, and of course an opportunity to innovate. In many businesses, especially the nascent ones, people with relevant experience, drive, and passion are hard to come by, especially when you can't pay the market compensation. So the way we innovated was, again, not to look at experience, but to look for attitude. We hired anybody who had a passion for our business, even if they had not worked a day in their lives before this. So we picked up a lot of fresh people from colleges who had the right attitude as we saw it, and they became brilliant people for us, who helped us grow the business significantly. Not owning the business and yet having to drive the business all the way was often a challenge. Standing up to the physical owners and saying no to them and winning them over to your convictions. Evolving to the next revolutionary step was always a challenge. While we had the vision and probably the ability to do it, we had to constantly keep going and convincing other people about it. Balancing instinct with the often contradictory inputs and data that you are presented is also a challenge that any businessman, any entrepreneur has to face all the time. Moving from an entrepreneurial to a corporate environment was also another challenge, and an opportunity to learn how a larger corporate functions. Creating a new business like this is a process that goes well beyond the insightful flash or the dream that you have. There is no magic 10-step formula that will guarantee you successful business. It is highly stochastic. Not all business ideas make it. The success ratio is probably 1%. And it's highly iterative because you need to experiment and try various things and figure out what works and what doesn't. So you need to keep learning as you proceed and accelerate your learning as you proceed. Timothy Fairley of the University of Michigan has detailed the development of a new venture and its growth in terms of 6 phases. He calls the first phase discovery, identifying new opportunities and shaping them into business concepts. Second phase is feasibility analysis and assessment. The third phase is to actually develop this into a business plan and then get the relevant funding and to launch your business. Phase 5 is to grow your business. And phase 6 is an important one, exiting your business. Whether you're going in for an IPO, you're selling a stake sale, or exiting completely. While no two companies are exactly alike, nor likely to follow the exact development path, these phases describe most new ventures' evolutionary process. The renowned management thinker, Dr. Elio Goldratt, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting, states that businesses, to build sustainable success, need to develop a decisive competitive edge, as well as the capability to capitalize on it. He further states that the way to develop a decisive competitive edge is to satisfy a customer or a client's significant need to an extent that no other significant competitor can. Therefore, we need to start with the decision on which customers to serve and learn everything we can about it. The best way is to immerse yourselves in the lives of your customers. This process of immersion can give you significant insight about their needs, aspirations, hopes, desires, and of course their behavior. And we heard Sudhir talk about that process, and it's a process that can be followed by any and every business very successfully. There are many critical questions that we need to ask before we decide to start a venture. Why do we exist? Why are we in this business? What's our vision? What do we want to be? What exactly is our business? What is our business model? What are our values? What do we believe in and how will we behave? What's our value proposition? Is it unique or differentiated? Is it easy to imitate? Who are the customers we want to serve and why? What insights do we have about their needs and benefits, their hopes and aspirations? Why should our customers come and keep coming back to us? How will we fund our business? How will it make money? How will we profitably achieve a decisive competitive edge and sustain it? How relevant is our value proposition to our customers? How do we deliver it? How much do we charge and why? How much are our customers willing to pay and why? By when can we achieve our goals? By when can we recover our investment? So these questions are fundamental to every business, any business. And they can be summed up in three parts. Is it real? Is the market real? Is the product real? Can we win? Can our product or service be competitive? Can our company be competitive? And thirdly, is it worth doing? Will the product be profitable at an acceptable risk? Does launching it and sustaining it make strategic sense? I've often been asked if entrepreneurs are born or made. And the answer is, of course, both. Some are born and some are made. It is more important to understand the traits and qualities of entrepreneurs, which are: one, they are people with insight. Entrepreneurs have the ability to see the market through new eyes. As Marcel Proust said, the real act of discovery is not in finding new lands, but in seeing it with new eyes. Achievement drive. Entrepreneurs have a powerful drive to achieve. This may express itself in a need for personal wealth, in making a difference, or in achieving something significant. Entrepreneurs are very adaptable and flexible in their approach to life and are very comfortable in ambiguous situations. Autonomy is another characteristic of entrepreneurs. They enjoy their autonomy and freedom to select and act. They may be effective in partnership depending on the amount of autonomy they require, or sometimes they're better off working on their own. Decisiveness is another important attribute. And entrepreneurs score very high in problem solving as a result of this. Entrepreneurs feel in control of their own destiny and believe that they can control what happens to them, for good or for bad, and that luck has little to do with it. This strong belief in personal control over events is one of the key factors identifying successful entrepreneurs. Energy and drive is another characteristic of entrepreneurs. They have the ability to energize others as well as carry energy week after week, month after month, even under difficult circumstances. Enterprise. Entrepreneurs are very enterprising and they demonstrate readiness to put in effort into new, often risky ventures or business activities. Growth motivation is another attribute. Personal growth and development are important to them, and they're usually strongly motivated by the desire to learn new things. Intuition is another characteristic of successful entrepreneurs. They are alive to the opportunity around them. They see business opportunities where others don't, and have an eye for changing trends and markets. Perseverance is another key aspect of entrepreneurs. They try again and again, regardless of setbacks and personal sacrifices. Rather than become discouraged by failure, they try to learn from their mistakes. Many entrepreneurs have actually failed in their first or second attempt, but have ultimately gone on to succeed. Problem solving is one aspect where they score very, very high. When they see a problem, they rise to the occasion and solve it, rather than waiting for it to take care of itself. Risk tolerance is another aspect that they're very, very high at. People who start business are often thought to be risk takers, but that's not necessarily how they see themselves. While they're willing to take risks, they actually take decisions based on how well they're able to mitigate the risks that they see. Self-confidence is another aspect of successful entrepreneurs. Their self-confidence assists them in persevering in the face of obstacles and the many challenges they face. There's perhaps no better description of wisdom and enlightenment, of force and strength, than in the Tao Te Ching. Knowing others is wisdom. Knowing the self is enlightenment. Mastering others requires force. Mastering the self needs strength. This lesson is hard won, if at all.